Madam Chair, I've sat here patiently and listened to a litany of speakers come here and address the committee of the whole on subjects important to them but irrelevant to the subject matter at hand. And one or another, maybe several of them, said this Democratic beach bill. I just want to remind the colleagues that this is the bill of the gentleman from California, Mr. Bilbray, who has labored for several years on behalf of this legislation. We finally move it through committee, bring it to the floor, and now it's laid at our doors as being the Democratic bill. And why are we wasting the House time? We bring it under an open rule, and then someone says, well, you should have brought it on suspension. If we brought it on suspension, they'd have complained because they didn't have an opportunity to offer the 8 amendments that they're bringing to the floor. I'm just perplexed by this this tactic. It's unworthy of the legislation pending. And we've worked hard to accommodate the gentleman from California who has a legitimate concern. I concur with his concern. We bring the bill out, and we do it in good faith, and we expect at least good faith response from the other side. Yield the balance of my time. In addition to the amendment.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
In the 109th Congress, we considered the reauthorization of the Appalachian Regional Commission. During consideration of the bill in committee, I proposed language to prohibit earmarks, which have been done time and again in the appropriation process, prohibit earmarks in the Appalachian Regional Commission appropriation process. The gentleman from Arizona supported my initiative, and I appreciated his support. It was the right thing to do. Unfortunately, the committee did not include that language. When the bill came to the floor, I worked to defeat the bill because it did not have that prohibition on earmarks, and the gentleman from Arizona supported my initiative. In this, the Beaches bill, or the Beach Environmental Assessment and Coastal Health Act, proposed by the gentleman from California, with whom I've worked on this matter for a period of 6 or 7 years, both his previous seating in Congress and during the time he was out of service in the Congress and when he returned. It's a good bill. The initial Beach Act authorized $30 million. About $10 million has been appropriated each year, and the money goes out by formula to the states. There have never been earmarks. The Appropriations Committee, nor on the House floor, there have ever been attempts to sub-allocate the funds. Each state receives a portion of annual appropriations based on a calculation of each state's varied beach monitoring and notification efforts. Now, we know very well that $10 million is insufficient, and because money is insufficient for a bill, that's often why, Madam Chair, members come with a proposal for an earmark to designate money so they're sure that their state or their beach or their city gets their fair, at least perceived fair share of funding. But it's never been done on this legislation, and we don't need any such limitation language. I think we have a fair formula, a specific cost. A specific focus on the base cost of the states of developing, maintaining water quality monitoring, notification programs, the mileage of the beach use, the length of the season, and other factors that the administrator of the agency determines to be appropriate. That is fair, and I think members of this body and of the other body recognize that it's fair, and so they haven't attempted to tinker with it. And we shouldn't do that in this bill. This is a good piece of legislation, a fair piece of legislation. Look, we bring this bill to the House floor under an open rule. It's one advocated by a member of the other side, member for whom I have the highest personal regard. And then we had a succession of members standing here complaining that we bring a bill to the floor that should have been brought here on open rule and that should have been brought under suspension. If we had brought it on suspension, I suspect the same people would come to the floor Madam Chair, and complained that we didn't have an open rule. So we're trying to do the right thing on a right piece of legislation, and we ought not to gimmick it with this proposal for that is totally unnecessary for a limitation on earmarks. We ought not to adopt this amendment.